Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, to this class. We are a consciousness study class. What we do is study consciousness, which is the philosophy and ideology of Kwame Nkrumah for decolonization of Africa. There's a book he wrote to, of course, share his philosophy with us and as a guide for us actually for 3 issues in Africa, because this philosophy and ideology try to address the issue of liberation of Africa, the unification of Africa, and the development of Africa. So we meet every Thursday, 1900, which is GMT. In UK is now 1900 plus 1. In Central African time is 2000, and in East African time where I am now is 21:18. So we meet every Thursday, we read the book. We've been reading paragraph per paragraph, paragraph per paragraph. Sometimes we don't read so many paragraphs because actually it's a philosophy book. So we need actually to go around, listen to each and every person's opinion, each and every person actually the thinking, so that we can be able to understand what is thinking. So this is not like a lecture class where somebody's lecturing you, but rather is a class whereby you read and you share what is your thinking in regards to what you learn. So Francis, can you be able to read your phone? Francis? Okay. I decided to put him on a waiting room because maybe his noises bring some interruption. So as I've said, we meet every Thursday. We share our thinking and we do the reading so that we can be able to know how we can move forward together as a team. So we started this philosophy, retrospect. Nkrumah tries to take us beginning of everything else. And the chapter 1 is purely starts on the beginning of the universe. So Nkrumah takes us back on how did the universe start? What is actually what is the universe made of? What is the origin of the universe? What are the material the universe is made of? And we've been moving in that study slowly by slowly up to where we are today. And from the start, of course, of this philosophy, Nkrumah has been able to bring forth some various aspects. But in the introduction part of this philosophy, he brought up key aspect of 3 types of course, he called them colonial students. One, whom he referred to be liberal colonial students. Other one, which he refers to be the conservative colonial students. And the last category, he called them the progressive and the radical colonial students. And this is a category he himself affirms that he was one of them. Now he moves to philosophy in retrospect, where he asks by the first question, what is the origin of the universe? What is the universe made of? So that we start from the beginning, so that together we can be able to pick the same philosophical and ideological point as we move forward. So the question has been, what do you think the universe is made of? And the second question, how what it is become to be. First is what there is. The first philosophical question, what there is. And the second philosophical question, how what there is. It means, how did that which actually the universe made of come to be? So in the first question of what there is like what the universe is made of, Nkrumah has been able to bring 2 positions in past readings. One has been according to the Thales. Thales believe a philosopher, of course, he believes that the universe is made of water, as a simple. Then Berkeley, who happens to be, of course, a religious a bishop or a pastor, in the religious aspect, says that the universe is made of spirits. So these 2 contradicting opinions is what we try to examine as to bring all evidences as we move forward. And it is categorized that those who believe that the universe is made of water are preferred or are referred to be materialists. And those who believe that the universe is made of spirits are referred to be the idealists. I know we have those who are idealists or materialists, and some members in this class, of course, have been actually removed or have conflict with the members of the class based on their ideological stand. So Nkrumah more propagate the idealist, the materialist condition or the materialist aspect of the universe. Then from the question of what there is, where we come with two answers, water or spirit, we move ahead to the next conversation. And the next conversation was the finite and infinite. Is the universe finite or the universe infinite? Is the universe having an end or it's having a beginning or the universe is endless? So this became another conversation that we've engaged extensively in our previous classes, that we were able actually to conclude from Nkrumah's summation that whether you believe the universe is having an end or not having an end is mental, is your own personal conception. How do you conceive it? But we move further again to introduce another aspect, which is called the aspect that was brought forth is called the aspect of principle of sufficient reasoning. And Nkrumah, of course, moved ahead in his principle of sufficient reasoning, where we had abstract thinking and concrete thinking. But he says that everything that happens has sufficient or must be explained. There's nothing that happens without a source. It must actually be fully explained. And that brings up, of course, so many issues. If you link it with Africa, what situations are we going through? Can you be able to explain it? Then this also moves us further to another aspect of the outside and the inside of the universe. If you believe that the universe is made up of spirits, or maybe there's another superior being somewhere, and then you believe that there's another universe outside this universe. And this goes to the concept of those who, of course, the religious or the Christians who believe that there's a heaven outside the earth or this universe. That once you die here, you go somewhere there, or there's some forces somewhere that control this universe that we live in. And that brought, of course, so many issues. We saw the atheism, deism, and pantheism. And now we moved forward up to where we are, and the Christian thinking and the Christian understanding. Actually, he says that people think, or some people will realize that they are saving, they're putting their wealth where the moth cannot reach, and not on this universe, maybe somewhere outside there. So this is all that we've been doing and all we've read before, and this is where now we are. Before I start off, I was just giving an explanation, but if in case maybe there's something I misquoted or misrepresented, probably feel free to come up and actually try to touch on it, because we've been here together. So, Brother Kwame, I see your hand is up. Maybe you have any correction or any information.
No, I just want to add, maybe just to it's just an addition in general. I think that what Nkrumah in all this, what he is trying to demonstrate when you look at, for example, the composition of the earth and of course our beliefs, whether the earth is infinite or finite. I think that what Nkrumah in general is trying to establish in all this is to give the revolutionary the tools to believe that he can do anything. He can create new societies. You should not limit yourself. Like if somebody came up today and told you that you can build Africa in the next 20 years, I'll give an example, to the richest place on the universe. You can build it to that point, maybe to an economy of $100 trillion in the next 30 years. You can do it, even though we know that the United States is an economy of $24 trillion, is the richest, but you can build Africa to $100 trillion. Of course, when you say this, it becomes a shock to majority of the people, like, how is that possible when the United States is the richest and stuff like that? But what Nkrumah is trying to establish is that what you think, depends on you, but there's nothing that can limit you or a group of people who have come together and started, and they establish a vision upon which they want to work. There's nothing that can stand in their way. And you have the ability. He's trying to establish and inform the revolutionaries that you have the ability, this matter, the creation, the composition of the universe, they are just elements that are there for you to play with. And this reminds us from something which is quoted in the Bible, that God, where it says that God created the man and then he told him to subdue the earth. go out and subdue. Everything has been given to you to subdue. So you should not go again and be kneeling down and be praying, give me food, when they have told you, go and subdue the thing is there. So I think that is from a religious perspective, of course. But philosophically, that is what Nkrumah is trying to establish, that you can do it if you people organize yourself. All this is for you, to do whatever you want with it. Time, matter, the composition of the universe. Nothing can stand in your way if you decide that this is what we are going to do with our society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you very much, brother Kwame, for that. There's a member here with the phone number 85. 84952225. Kindly identify yourself so that we can change your name. The comrade 85. Yes, kindly identify who you are. Hello, comrade. I see you are muted. Comrade, you are muted. Can you identify yourself or introduce yourself? Or you can turn on your video so that we can see who you are. Okay. So thank you very much, Brother Kwame. We will proceed with this. And thanks for that, of course, rejoinder. And I think we'll now go straight to our reading, because we always do. We do read a paragraph. We ask someone to read a paragraph, and then we start sharing our thinking and understanding in regards to that paragraph. So, of course, Brother Kwame Gonzalez brought that aspect of religion and how, of course, to Nkrumah, it's like religion was more of trying to confuse you that you have limited power to do anything else, that there's some power externally somewhere that actually you must tap to in order to do anything you want. And that was an aspect of us to believe in ourselves and actually see how we can move forward. So I don't know if Brother Kwame, from where you are you able actually to help us read the first paragraph of this class today from the start instances?
So let me read.
Insistence.
Insistence on the secular nature of the state is not to be interpreted as a political declaration.
Yeah, you remember, Brother Kwame?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you proceed?
Okay. So insistence on the secular nature of the state is not to be interpreted as a political declaration of war on religion. For religion is also a social fact and must be understood before it can be tackled. To declare a political war on religion is to treat it as an ideal phenomenon, to suppose that it might be wished away or, at the worst, scared out of existence. The indispensable starting point is to appreciate the sociological connection between between religious belief and practice on the one hand, and poverty on the other. People who are most aggressively religious are the poorer people. For in accordance with the Marxist analysis, religion is social and contemporary religious forms and practices have their main root in the social depression of workers. Quick confirmation can be found in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and among the people of African descent in America and the Caribbean. Terrifying pauperism arising from the pre-technical nature of most contemporary societies, combined with the encroachment of world capitalism, a combination which can mete out prostitution, destruction, ruin, and death from starvation and exploitation, to its victims quickly reinforces the religious feeling. Fear created the gods, and fear preserved them. Fear in bygone ages of wars, pestilence, earthquakes, and nature gone berserk. Fear of acts of God. Fear today of the equally blind forces of backwardness and rapacious capital. I think that is where it stops. Or I should continue.
No, thank you for that. We will have to stop it there first, so that as always, we will have to listen or go around and share our thinking in regards to that. So I really need to inform members here that prior to this paragraph, of course, Nkrumah had proposed that a state or a government or a state need to be actually secular. And I think he's pushing forward this. So I'll start by probably Brother Kwame Gonza. As you've read it, can you be able to read it again, Silent, and tell us what are you capturing from this? Because other members here are a bit new and probably are thinking from some of us who have been here might help them or might get them a bit also to share their thinking properly. So, Brother Gonza, I know you've read it, but I believe you had read it also before. What can you bring out of this as you are trying to explain what you started before?
Yeah, so I think from what you mentioned, which is the previous paragraph, which was talking about the secularity of a state, Nkrumah is, of course, saying that the state should be secular, by its nature. The Pan-African state should be secular. And then he comes to here and explains that the secularity of the state does not mean or should not be interpreted as a political declaration of war on religion. And actually, this comes to answer the question within Pan-Africanism. Today, there is a conversation that is going on about the outlawing of religion and the condemnation of religion, Christianity and Islam as the things which have held back the minds of the Africans. And this has become really a heated conversation. But some of these people have not read actually how Nkrumah looked at religion and approached it, because from Nkrumah's position, he's looking at it as an institution. These institutions, Arabic, for example, came here a long time ago, almost as far as the 4th century into the continent. So some of these institutions have been around the continent and integrated themselves into African culture. Like especially, for example, if you look at the Sahel, Mali, those areas, they have integrated themselves inside African society for more than 1,000 years. Christianity itself, it has also been around for close to more than 600 years within the continent. So to antagonize these groups in this process of building the new state as African revolutionaries or Pan-African revolutionaries, it becomes self-defeating, because you need some of these people to rally behind you. So you have to handle the issue of religion. Even when you have succeeded at unifying the continent, you have to handle it slowly by slowly, because it is an institution that has been around for a very long time. And therefore, you need also a lot of time for you to emerge maybe something which you will, like, for example, the Chinese, who have Confucianism, and you will be able to evolve some way, which Nkrumah, of course, called the consensusism, bringing together Christianity and Islam, of course, strategically, but it will take time. Maybe it might take even another 300 years or 400 years, depending on how strong the Pan-African state will continue to stay. So then he goes ahead to explain that this understanding of religion, if you want to understand it very well and use it to your advantage, then you have to understand why people believe, why people have these religions. You can't just declare a political war on religion and think that by saying it has affected our people's mind, we have outlawed it. And then you think that it will just go away like that. out of existence. It will just disappear. As a materialist, as a realist, a Pan-Africanist who is dealing with the real issues and what is going on in society, you cannot look at things like that. You have to confront the problem and know how to deal with it. To understand what he's saying, the starting point is to appreciate the sociological connection between religious belief and practice. And on one hand, poverty. Why is there religion? Why is there beliefs? Why do people believe in society? Maybe there is spirituality. It has to do with the questions of spirituality. And then to connect that belief with poverty, you know, why do people believe? Of course, other people have said people believe because they are trying to find meaning and how to cope with hopelessness and to find hope and cope with hardship and all these things. I think this is what Nkrumah is trying to explain. But of course, today, because imperialism has found it that it is taking our people's material possessions, then it points them to religion, that if you pray, then all of a sudden God will see you through and get you some of the materials and stuff like that. So the connection between religion and then poverty, you know, poor people. And that is why he said that most of the exploited people are the ones who have been the most religious. And he points to Africa, Latin America, and of course, we know what the United States has done in Latin America, and we know what it has done in Africa, and of course, a lot of parts of Asia. This is where you find the most religious people, the most poor, they are the ones who are most, you know, religious. So, and then of course, he brought in capitalism, which I've already spoken about. And therefore, these capitalists, they go on to manipulate this phenomenon. And after this poverty has been brought on them, imposed on them, and then they continue to manipulate it, they should fear something, fear God, fear this. And because there's always fear within man, then these people, they succeed at a certain level into hoodwinking the people so that they can continue their capitalism and capitalist exploitation while people are submitting to the process. Thank you. This is how I understand it.
Thank you very much for that wonderful, of course, wonderful connection. I think from your studies and of course what you share, the thinking in regards to this book, the key question should be, can we have a justification? Probably we need to carry some research, of course, to ascertain this condition, that where more people are more religious is where also more people are more poorer. And if more people are more poorer, you call it capitalism, as he says. How comes those within the religion, either the churches or the pastors and whatever, are rich? Because you find there's a mix in churches where there are rich people and poor people. Does it mean that they're using religion to exploit the poor people, to make them more poor? So it's some of the questions that actually we need to engage ourselves further for some research and to be able to see how we can justify and back up such instances. Because we don't need to argue just by argument. We need actually to be factual, as Nkrumah is saying. So let me go to, hope now you've understand, members who are new here, you've been able to understand how we share our thinking. The way Brother Kwame has done it, that's how we do it. You share what you think in regards to what we've read here. So let me go to King of Africa, and I'll ask you to actually give us your formal name, and maybe you can go ahead and share your thinking as well, comrade. Yes, King of Africa. King of Africa, can you hear me? Okay, am I audible? Comrades, am I audible? Can you hear me? King of Africa.
Okay. Brother PG, you are audible.
Okay, it seems the king is not able to speak. So let's go to Brother Kabbalah.
PG, you are audible.
Okay, thank you, Brother Kwame. Brother Kabbalah, are you able to speak?
King of Africa has his hands up, just so you know. Pigeon.
Yeah, I've been calling him to speak, but he's not speaking.
Hands up.
But he cannot be able to speak. I'm calling him to speak.
Okay, we can come back to him later.
Okay. Brother Kabbalah? Brother Kabbalah.
Sorry, greetings everyone.
Greetings.
So excuse me, I'm not able to talk. I'm just in to listen. So you may excuse me for that. I'm running down with the flu. Thank you.
Oh, thank you even for that brief talk. You're welcome. Of course, Brother Kabbalah is one of the leader of ACUP, and we've been friends for some time. We know each other, Brother Kabbalah, Brother Kwame. Yeah, and we are part of course, young men in Africa who are trying to do our best to see how we can help Africa. So welcome again, comrade, and nice to see you around. Let me go to Comrade Mayra.
First of all, I would like to say I'm very happy to be a part of the group. This is my first session, although I've been following along on YouTube. So I wouldn't differ very much from what Kwame has said. I think in this paragraph, he's talking about not to ban or stop people having their faith or their religion. Because like Kwame has said, Islam, for example, has become very integral to African culture in countries where it is. But he's just saying, just look at how religion is being used to control the society. You know, what's the sociological construct in which it's used? You know, it's usually, I think it's Marx that said that religion is the opiate of the masses. So it's just used for people to tell people it's okay to suffer. Do not rise up and try to change the status quo. Just keep believing, and then one day things will be better, you know, and then as long as they keep hoping, even if nothing changes, they just believe one day will be better, one day to get better without actually doing any action to change anything. So I think he's saying perhaps that attitude is what should be tackled. That's what should be changed, rather than just saying no religion, no faith. And then he goes on to say, he describes the material situation of terrifying pauperism arising from the pre-industrial economies, which he calls the pre-technical nature of societies. And then he mentions the encroachments of world capitalism. But that made me think about the IMFs and the World Banks, which impose these policies that they say are helping us, yet really they're keeping us where we are in our impoverished state. The destruction, the ruin from death, from starvation and exploitation to its victims, and all this combined provides religion as a hopium for people to hold on to. And then obviously the people that exploit that hope and make money out of the already poor people, you know. So I think it's just talking about approaching, just trying to understand what religion is used for in African society. That's what comes across to me in this paragraph.
Thank you very much, sister. Brother Christian Kwame, Sister Mary has joined us today. She's from UK, but of course from Uganda, but she's staying in UK. So you have another sister in the room, and we welcome you, sister. I believe some members who have joined recently now might not be able to, or might have not been able to go through. We are reading the first paragraph that starts on top of the screen from the word insistence. So kindly have a time to read it. That paragraph that ends to rapacious capital. Then now you'll be able to share your thinking to the new members of join us. Just have time to read it because we'll still be going around to share the thinking in regards to that paragraph. So I see Kabbalah said he's not able to speak, Kwame and Maria. I don't know, John Opoku, you were here before. Are you able now to share your thinking in regards to that one paragraph? If you're not able, just tell us pass so that we can move to the next person. But I believe you should be able. Father John Opoku, I know you've been having
yes, I am, but I've just joined, so I can't. Hello, I've just joined.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I've just joined, so let me listen to others first.
Comrade Pigeon.
Okay, no.
Comrade Pigeon.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you stop sharing so that I can share using the laptop so that the screen will be bigger for everyone to see? Excellent.
So thank you. As Brother Kwame is connecting his laptop to share with us, I'd like to say that of course. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for this very this is the one you sent me. It's really nice. It's one page per screen, so that's really nice. So it's clearer, and we can increase the width, and everybody can see it very clearly. Comrade Pigeon, thank you very much. On behalf of all members of CSU, would like to thank you very much for your hard work.
You're welcome, comrade. I'm humble and I do appreciate this. Are you able to reduce the size a bit so that we can see a whole paragraph? Because this is part of a paragraph. Yes. The problem is, no, just leave it. If it goes down, it can be too small. Yeah. So somebody can enlarge this via enlarging their screen. So it's not a must you enlarge it. You can enlarge your screen, then you are able to enlarge this as an individual. So thank you for that. Yes, so Brother Kwame, we've been sharing this, Brother Kabbalah, Kwame Goza. Sister Shireen, are you able to share something now? Or you've also joined later bit so that we can give you some time?
I will. I was reading the sections below, but I will in a few minutes because obviously the paragraph has been increased. So allow me just a few minutes to read it and then I will comment. Is that okay?
Okay, thank you very much for this. I'd like also to remind members. Thank you for that. I'd like to remind members also that this paragraph was shared somewhere, and I'll be able to share it also in the chat so that you can read it as a whole. But so far now, it's me and Brother Kwame is remaining here, Christian Agoza, to share our thinking, because the new members have said that we pass a bit, they've joined late. But permit me also to share my thinking before I give it to Brother Kwame. Yeah, I think as Kwame Nkrumah had said before, that there's a need for us to have a state being secular. Now, it goes extra mile. I think this is the very critical thing in Africa today. Of course, people believe that we as Africans, and some of us here believe, that we must do away, of course, with the all religion, education, and everything else Western. But Nkrumah says that we need to be, it provides how we have to deal with this. Because people have been proposing that. But he says here that we need also to ensure that we don't just declare war on religion. For to him, religion is just a social fact and must be understood before it's be able to tackle. So we must be able also to understand how deep as the religion actually influence our people. I remember in Kenya here, when the white men came during the colonialism, they came to one of the community called the Kikuyu community. And they came with this, of course, ideas across the Africa of baptizing you, converting you to be a Christian or whatever. And I think Brother Forkward also presented here strongly that it was their part of their mission and intention that they were to go out and look for those who are non-Christian, to convert them by force, and if they refuse, take their land, make them slave, or kill them. So it was intentional that when they were coming over with the religion aspect, of course, as a foreign religion, they were under instruction. And what happened in Kenya here is that when the white man came, he said in Kenya that they told us to hold the Bible, close our eyes, and when you open our eyes, the land was gone. So it started like that. And then when these religious people came to Africa, they found our old leaders, then they made them chiefs. Of course, there were some few chiefs, but they made them chiefs. But one of the chief in Kenya here, prominent chief, actually disagreed with the religious team when his land was taken, or the land that was belonging to some part of him was taken, and was left for a small land. Second thing that brought issues within the Western religion to Africans was actually stopping the what you call the feminine genital, whatever, the circumcision of women that was actually practiced with one of the community within the African setup or the Kenyan setup. So these few practices made Africans and most of Kenyans actually to start forming what we call the independent churches, where they could be able actually to still possess their land and actually still have their circumcision going on. Then there was this aspect of naming. If you realize the famous community in Kenya, they call the Kikuyu community in Kenya, who do not actually prefer the English names. I remember the first Prime Minister of Kenya said that when he went to church for baptism, he was forced that the baptism name must be an English name. But having challenged the system, he was allowed to have a baptism name which was African. Now, most of Kikuyu, one of the renowned writer called Ngugi wa Thiong'o, all those names are traditional names. Ngugi wa Thiong'o. We have so many of them who has those traditional names. Uhuru Kenyatta, Jomo Kenyatta. We have so many of them, even Raila Odinga, who decided to take traditional names. So I think despite of them taking the traditional names or rejecting the religion, they did not actually go ahead to fight it. And this is the wisdom we must apply at this particular moment. But we must also go ahead and understand the relationship within religion and poverty. For example, of course, Africa can be called to be more of religious in terms of Christians or Islams, but poverty is still also so much in Africa. So can we be able to do and have an analysis and relationship? Why is poverty's prevalence in Africa or in some other parts of Latin, as Nkrumah has described, why our religion is also hand in hand? Does it mean that many people spend more time in churches praying instead of working? Or does it mean that people are giving up to work hard to liberate themselves in Africa as they also work hard to build the next world in heaven? Can this be part of the reasons why poverty is prevalent within Africa setup? And how about, as Brother Kwame said here, that people sell hope? I believe that the most important thing now that you can sell and go easily is hope. Are the churches actually in the process of business, transacting business, as they sell for people hope and they take the money in terms of tithe to enrich themselves? And this is now when coming with what Nkrumah says, capitalism in this aspect. Does it mean that even the religion or the churches have been used as a way for some people who are actually money oriented to make money out of it in the prospect of actually trying to sell for you something? And does it mean that this too much of giving up and down, where you find like in Kenya here, there's a lady who was a pilot, who was a cabin crew. I don't know, cabin crew, those hostess, those ladies who dress well in the planes. I've never seen them. I hear they dress well. She decided to leave the job and withdrew her money and took it to a certain pastor in Kenya here. And she gave it all to the pastor and became poor and went to the forest to pray and fast that she wanted to meet Jesus, as that pastor was telling them. Then she died in the forest. That scandal is still in Kenya. It's believed over 600 people gave their life or were buried or they were sacrificed in the forest as they were praying to meet Jesus, and they died until they were waiting to meet Jesus. So can this be part of the contrast that actually religions bring? And this is part of my understanding to this. So I'll maybe allow Brother Kwame also, Christian Kwame, to also share his thinking in regards to this. Yes, Christian Nagonza.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Before I speak, I would like to welcome Amira. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I'd like to welcome Sister Myra.
Thank you.
Welcome Sister Shireen back after some holiday. I noticed Brother Kabbalah is gone. I wanted to welcome him because Comrade Kwame Gonza has mentioned him to me. I must say I'm surprised that our brother John Opoku, who is I can see he's Ghanaian, and I can see his picture. So that tells me he's a veteran of Kwame Nkrumah. I can just tell from his demeanor and the way he spoke. So I don't accept he saying that he wants to listen. I'm sure he was even a member of the Young Pioneers. So we need him to talk so we can have the recording because we are recording this event. So Senior Comrade Opoku, you can't just be listening, I'm afraid. You'll have to speak at some point today. I hope you don't mind me saying so. Right, having said that,
I don't mind.
having said that, I think I agree with everything that has been said. I mean, there's so much to be said about the relationship between religion and poverty and the African. Let's remember that this paragraph is a continuation of the previous paragraph, the arguments in the previous paragraph, which was talking about the African leadership and how the African leadership, when it suits them, use religion for political ends. And when they use religion for political ends, in the process, they mislead the people because what happens is that they unleash a religious fervor amongst the people. And once the objective has been achieved, it's very then hard to reverse the religious fervor. So Nkrumah was warning the leadership of Pan-Africanism, or you might call it the radical leadership of Pan-Africanism, to be careful how they use religion. Because if you recall from our previous reading, religion, as Nkrumah pointed out, is an instrument of bourgeois social reaction. Okay, but so and then he goes on to say, but its social use is not always confined to colonialists and imperialists. So, as Comrade Pigeon has rightly reminded us, yes, the imperialists brought religion, and the colonialists also used religion, but they are not the only people who use it. The African leadership today also use religion. They will sit in parliament and say, for instance, that only God can reward teachers for what they do for the nation. Now, this is parliamentarians saying this in parliament. This is the Ghanaian parliament, by the way. And so on and so forth. So, and then as we know in Kenya, we have been told that the political leadership have invited the people to come, even send buses to transport them. For what? So they can come and pray for rain and so on. So the neo-colonial leadership in Africa used religion too. So Nkrumah was warning against the dangers of the use of religion. And as Brother Gonza has eloquently at length, explained, yes, I mean, so what is happening is that, or what has happened is that religion can be used in various ways. I think I think, and as Brother Gonza was also saying, this debate has erupted somewhere else, which is alluded to, over Christianity and so on and so forth, and the role of Christianity, the imperialist movement, the colonization movement, and so on. And what people then say is that they blame, they appear to be saying that the people's acceptance of Christianity or Islam or whatever religion, but most of the attack is on Christianity. And I think that is understandable because the Europeans or Euro-Christianity came from the Europeans. Whereas the Islamic slave trade happened before the Europeans came. So the Islamic or Arab slavery, because it happened before the Christians took over, in terms of history, we tend to forget about that. In fact, some people don't even realize that Arabs also enslaved us or bought and sold Africans. Some people forget that. And so there's a lot of emphasis on the Christians. And the Christians, because it's worse for the Christians, but they claim to be followers of Christ. And how on earth followers of Christ can they be buying and selling their fellow human beings who, if you go by their own religion, Jesus has saved and washed with his precious blood? How then you, a Christian, can then buy and sell someone who belongs to Christ? It is just mind-boggling. So a lot of the attacks is on the Christians. Okay, not to summarize, but to set out then what I've been saying. The leadership, the neo-colonial leadership on the African continent, who use religion, is where Nkrumah started from, and was warning that if they continue in that fashion, then they deepen religion. Now, in terms of then coming forward, in terms of the state, the African state, if you ask the question, what kind of state should we live in as Africans? I think Mr. Gonza has also touched on that, and that it has to be a secular state. Why? Because a secular state will not support any religion, whether Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Sikhism, atheism, whatever ism it is. A secular state does not or will not support any religion. Incidentally, where I live in England, I live in England, but it's part of the United Kingdom. It's made up of England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales. The United Kingdom is not a republic. It's a monarchy, and the monarch is also the head of the church. The Anglican Church. You see, so the British state, if you like, the UK state, is not a secular state as such. It is an Anglican state, but they allow all religions to thrive. They don't suppress any religion. Understand? They don't suppress Buddhists. They don't suppress Sikhs. They don't suppress Islamists. They don't suppress. They don't suppress the pouring of libation. They don't suppress anyone. They allow everyone to practice their religion. So although it is an Anglican state, it operates as if it's a secular state. Okay. So coming back to the people are not poor because they are religious. I think I've made that comment elsewhere. Africans are not poor because they are religious. Africans are poor because they are exploited. Okay, that is why they are poor. It's because they are exploited, and because they are exploited and they are poor, they become religious to seek consolation through religion and hope. for a better future. See? So what is needed is that it's not the people we have to worry about. The people are not the problem. The people are fine. The people are not the problem. The people are fine. They are not religious because they are not poor because they are religious. So that is not where the problem lies. The problem lies with the exploitation of Africa's resources. And those who are allowing this to happen are the leadership of Africa, or shall I say the misleadership of Africa. It is the Africans who are operating as neo-colonialists. It is they who are now the managers of shall I say, they are the managers of exploitation, neo-colonial exploitation on the continent. And it is they who are the problem. Understand? If the leadership, if there's a new leadership, and the new leadership focuses on the real problem of Africa, which is to stop the exploitation of our resources, the people will become wealthier. Africans will become wealthier. They'll have more money in their pocket. All right? They will have better jobs. They will have good health care. They will have a good pension system. They'll have better food to eat. There'll be no starvation or famine or hunger. Children will go to school. Parents will be able to pay school fees. And in fact, there will even be free education up to university level, for Africans, and so on and so forth. So when the people's economic woes are reduced and they are happier and they can stay in their homes and enjoy their homes, why would they need to go to church or the mosque? So it's the poverty is the problem. It's exploitation and poverty that is the problem. And that's what needs to be solved. But we have some Africans who want to divert our attention from the economic problem and claim that it is a religious problem and that religion is a problem. And they want to wage war on religion. And some of us are saying, no, that is not the problem. The problem of Africa is not religion. The problem of Africa is neo-colonialism. And granted that religion is part of the neo-colonial regime. Granted that. But then we need to understand that. We need to understand that when Brother Pigeon said that there's a story that the imperialists came and they asked us to pray, and then we closed our eyes, and when we opened our eyes, we had the Bible, they had the land. What does it really mean? And this is what we need to understand. You see, what it really means is that the purpose of imperialism and colonialism, new colonialism, the purpose is property. That is why they came. They came for property. And I use property in the widest sense of the word. Whether it is title deeds to land, or whether it is the land itself, or whether it is slaves, slaves as human beings being turned to property, whether it is gold, diamond, whatever, however you define property. That is the point of imperialism. It is about property. It's about taking somebody else's property for your benefit. So you deny them the use of their own property so that you benefit from that property. See? And that is what this is about. And I think that hasn't been properly understood. Because I think that some of us haven't taken the time to look at what Marx really means when he talks about the basis of society. See? So in cultural studies and in sociological studies, they the meaning of production, how production takes place. By production, we mean how people produce what they need in order to be alive, so that they don't die, so they can survive and have children and pass on their property to their children. By property, I mean everything, whether it is their own genes, genetic material, whether it is the land that their own fathers passed on to them, whether it is a house, whatever it is, to live and survive and pass down on to the next generation of children. You see, that property is at the heart of that, including you yourself, as seeing yourself as if you like, as property, in the sense that you own yourself. And if you are born into a family, you are, if you like, you belong to that family. If you use economic line, you are the property of that family. So no, another family cannot come and take your children and add it to their family, because that child cannot belong to that family, because that child is not the property of that family. So what are we saying? So we are saying that before imperialists came, before they came and started taking our properties, right? The properties belong to us, but they belong to us on the basis not of property relations, but of kinship relations. And this is what I think a lot of us do not properly understand. There's a difference between organizing society on the basis of kinship, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunties, grandparents, great-grandparents, that kinship system, which is a traditional African way of organizing ourselves. We all belong to clans. Brother Gonza is here, so you will understand the Baganda as a nationality have clans. Everybody in the nation of Baganda, some say Buganda. The Kabaka is the head, is the traditional head of the Buganda nation. Every member of the Buganda nation knows where they are in terms of their clans. Understand? I'm sure the Kikuyus have the same, the Luos have the same, the Igbos have the same, the Yorubas have the same, the Akans have the same, the Gans have the same. So within the Gan tradition, you know where you fit within the Gan nation. That is kinship. That is not based on property. But what the Europeans brought was now a different kind of relationship, where it's not kinship anymore, but property. And that is why in the Gold Coast, in fact, not just in the whole of Africa, the imperialists went about taking land that wasn't occupied. If they see your land and there was nobody on it, there was no farm on it, they took it. In terms of the British, it became British property, or if you like, became the property of the crown. And then, having taken it over, what did they do? They gave it to subjects of the crown who were white, and gave it to them to come and farm. And that's how Europeans then came to East Africa and South Africa and so on. Luckily for us in the Gold Coast, by the time they started taking land, we had lawyers, and these lawyers traveled to England here, where I am currently, went to the House of Parliament, and they had a presentation to the House of Parliament here in England, and they were called the Aborigines Rights Protection Society. I repeat, the Aborigines Rights Protection Society, John Mensah Saba, and so on. And these were Ghanaian lawyers, who came here, and they explained to Parliament here that the fact that somebody is not on the land doesn't mean that you can take it. It belongs to someone. There is no land in Africa that is just there and doesn't belong to anyone. People see vast tracts of land with nobody on it, and they think it's free, it's not inhabited, therefore it doesn't belong to anybody. You can just go and take it. Even even today, people still think the same, you know, but it is not so. Every piece of land in Africa belongs to someone. Just because it is there and nobody's on it doesn't mean that you can just come and take it. But that was the British mentality. And so they went and take land. So in our case, I was saying, the case of the Gold Coast, they came and they made the argument, and the British Parliament accepted the argument of the Aborigines Rights Protection Society, and so they rescinded all the crown possessions in the Gold Coast. Unfortunately for our brothers and sisters in East Africa and go to South Africa, they didn't have a comparable set of lawyers or legal luminaries to go and to take up the matter on their behalf. And so they lost land big time. And as Brother Pigeon is here, he will tell you how the Mau Mau then was formed. For what? To defend land. The book that Mati Gari wrote, the book that Ngugi wa Thiong'o wrote called Mati Gari, that book essentially is about land. It's about how the freedom fighters came back and their properties were occupied. You know, it's about property and they had been taken away. And so they had to go back to the bush and fight again to take back their land. And the guys on horseback who the Mau Mau guy came to beat in his house, the guy on horseback, he was a black man. The other guy, I'm talking about the book now, which Brother Pigeon will present to us at some point on a Saturday. Then the other guy also on the horse, also he was a white man. So we had a black guy on the horseback and a white man on the horseback, both of them saying that this Mau Mau freedom fighter had no rights to the property for which he had gone into the bush to fight in order to liberate Kenya. You see, so I've been speaking for a long time, so I think I will pause because I don't want to take the whole time. But the point I'll summarize the point and say that we as Pan-Africanists must understand the arguments better. We must understand the role of kinship and the role of property. We must understand that the whole issue, the whole problem today is about property. If you take Niger, for instance, and you look at the issue, what is the issue there? The issue is that their natural resources, their property, was being mined and given away almost for free to foreigners called the French, so that the French can use that property to provide electrical power or electricity for the French people. Granted that there are black people in France, granted that, but the majority of French people are white. So you have the property of Africans in Niger being used for the benefit of white French people, majority people. Now that is what this is about. So I think we need to wake up and understand what really this is about. So this paragraph we are reading on the secular nature of the African state. The African state, which must be a socialist state, by the way, that state must protect the property of Africa on behalf of Africans. The taking back of all African property under socialist control, because if you allow private hands to continue to control it, then the imperialists will never be defeated, because then they will have, in fact, as we speak, if an imperialist want to come and buy vast tracts of land, who can stop them? I'm sure as we speak, we've heard that vast tracts of lands have been bought by foreigners in Africa. You know, they've bought them. They don't belong to us anymore. Properties, companies that were set up by Kwame Nkrumah, when they were set up and on land, those lands were never bought. The state took the land and built an industry on the land. But that land belonged to someone, but that person gave it up for the state, or the state took it anyway. without compensation. Now, when these companies were sold, those who bought the company then also took the land. But the company never owned the land. So how can the company then take the land as well? So in the 1980s in Ghana, this became an issue. As I speak, I don't think it has been properly resolved. So, Pigeon, I think I'll stop there because the paragraph we are reading on this particular state is explaining that we need to understand where it fits into things. I think I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Brother Kwame, for that. That must be actually intensive and so insightful. But we do appreciate that. Thank you for that. I saw Sister Shireen hand was up. Sister, are you able now to share something with us? Sister Shireen?
Greetings. I actually wanted to share it before Brother Christian did, because he's the expert. But a lot of the things that Brother Christian said, I would have mentioned in regard to religion and people who are strongly religious to the unreligious come across as being, sorry to use these terms, but backward. What's the other word? What do you call it? Not redundant, but recessive. Because what highly religious countries do to their people, where there is a strong emphasis on religion, is that they take them away from the realities of future development and science and the should I say the sciences. I remember my parents being extremely religious and going by the Bible in regard to the doctrine that they would use to live their life, which, although it's a vast book, limited them in many different ways, and limited us as a family. So they dismissed science, they dismissed a load of other stuff as arts, even that weren't, related to the image of Christ. And even now, my parents, through my through my education and me re-educating them, they've changed their stance on a lot of things that they would have been very, very fearful on a basic level to have done. But I have other older family members who put religion in front of everything. And to me, it's quite a strange. It's quite strange they do that, because I've allowed myself and some of my peers to open up to ideologies beyond the boundaries of the great book. But I was going to talk about Nigeria, and where you have and I know that Brother Kwame touched on it, but where you have the Hausa in the north, you have, these are the main Nigerian territories. The Hausa in the north, who are Muslim. Then you have the Igbo, you have the Yoruba, who are Christian, and then you have the other states or villages that still practice animism. However, they may display Christian, but I don't want to call it behaviors, but practices, Christian practices, in order to, I don't want to say survive in that society, but in order for them to have a non-discriminatory treatment. Because what you'll find is in Hausa, for example, and I've been to Nigeria, but I haven't been to the Hausa states. I've been to Port Harcourt and I've been to Lagos. But what I'm presuming is a heavy-handed style of Islam in northern Nigeria, where you may have some people who are animist, who will practice Islam at the same time because they are part of that community. But you'll find that the Islamic regions are a lot more stricter in their practices and their social behaviors more than the Christian sides, where there is a strong domination of Christianity, but in some way or other they're more. I think I'd say they're more they're less. What am I trying to say? There's less of a kind of eye for an eye type of stance because the New Testament obviously says forgive your neighbor. So where the north of like the Hausa may be less forgiving and would join their brotherhood in order to say fight for a cause, the the Christian areas of Africa, I'll expand to Africa, would allow this type of exploitation to happen because of the indoctrination of what's it called? The Old Testament is an eye for an eye, but New Testament domination of turn the other cheek. And this is where the control of religion and the New Testament, which is where this Anglican domination comes in. So you'll find that a lot of priests or religious leaders who study and what is it what is the study they have? Not anthology, theology, isn't it? I think they study theology. But if you sit down and speak to those who are well trained, they will tell you that the Bible has untold allegorical stories. If you sit down and speak with them on a level, they will admit it. They will admit that these practices are redundant and these practices are used as a tool to keep certain people back. Now these people are inverted commas educated, and that's not to say that we as Africans aren't educated, but we have, in terms of the education that has been imposed on us, a bastardized education, it has a lot of limits to it. And this is where I was looking at the religion, poverty of the African comes into play, because I've been saying for years that Africa needs its own industrial revolution. Now, in order for that to happen, there are a lot of environmental, political, social, and technological challenges that will instill. Even though if we look at the Chinese and their style of industrial revolutions and stuff, the Chinese are spiritual people, but the religious element, I think, can I even use the Chinese as an example? I'm talking in regards to Mao and socialism pushing them to a different level and them getting rid of the weak on the Great Long Walk in order to form a new ideology, which has basically catapulted China into being a world-class leader. But where Africa continues to be raped and our resources stolen by those who still remain invisibly and visibly since I think it's 1887, the Berlin Conference, and after the World Wars, etc. There's just a thieving of our resources, and I think because we're taught as Christians not to be violent, when we'll join the French armies, we'll join the British armies, we'll join the German armies, we'll join all the other armies, and we'll kill ourselves and fight between ourselves. But in terms of coming together as a united army and dealing with the challenges that we have and actually overcoming things, that's another issue that people will have issues with because of religion. I don't know if I'm going off the point, but I think I'll leave it there for now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, sister, for that also.
Let me know if I made sense.
Of course, this is a class where you share your free thinking. It has a template of what is right. Yeah, so you're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you.
That, thank you for that.
Comrade Pigeon.
Yes.
If it's okay with you, if I could comment on Sister Shireen's submission briefly, she's asked if she's done well. I would say extremely well.
Okay.
She has articulated part of the central issue of religion, the issue of religion, and how religion can arrest science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in a society, and prevent society from developing the way it should. So the Arabs, for a long time, the Arabs were the leading scientists.
Yes.
Until there was this religious, but I can't remember his name now, who came and said that science was the devil, it's to do with the devil, and so on. And so the Arabs stopped being the leaders of science and technology. But before the Europeans became the leaders in science and technology, it was the Arabs.
And the Moors. And the Moors.
That's right. Yeah. Well, yeah, the Moors. Yeah. So the stars, some of the stars in the sky, if you look at their names, they are Arabic names. Yeah. And the Moors were also, as you know, Muslims. Yeah. So are the Arabs, not all of them though. So the point I'm making is that Shireen has hit the nail on the head in terms of that. So we can see that the problem is the leadership. So the reason that the African leadership continues to embrace religion, they will go and sit in the presidential palace, eat very good food, and then go to church and give a donation, and then make it appear to the people that it's okay to sit in church. The reason they are doing that is what Sister Shireen has alluded to, which is a use of religion to keep workers docile, to keep them submissive, to keep them from rebelling against their own exploitation. So that is the role of religion. And that is why the new African leadership must not embrace religion. See, this is a point Nkrumah was making in the paragraph before this, the one we are reading. That the leadership was when the African leadership embraced religion as a tool to control the people, to control the people in a way that they want in terms of their political objective, then they will continue to use this, to keep the people submissive. And that's the role of religion. That is why I am saying that, in line with what we are reading, that the problem is not the people, but the people will follow the leader. And the leader, remember, arises from the people anyway. So it is a leadership and political education for the people. That is the key. And that is not what we are having at the moment. And that is why we are still where we are. So the people are not poor because they are religious. They are poor because they are being exploited. And those who should lead them out of the poverty have also joined the imperialists and the neo-colonialists, use religion to keep the people submissive. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kwame, for that. Allow me remind you that your screen is not visible to us now. You stop sharing.
Oh, that was because it went off temporarily. Let me put it back. Sorry about that. Thank you. It's back now.
Thank you very much. Comrade Opuko was from Uganda, not Ghana. He had notified that, but I think he has left. Hope he'll be back.
Oh, John Opoku.
I don't know where he'll...
Yes. Is that where he lives? Because I mean, John Opoku is very Ghanaian.
Okay, maybe. He said he lives in Uganda. Anyway, no problem.
Oh, okay, that's possible. A lot of Ghanaians live in Uganda anyway, don't they?
Sister Ida, you've been silent. I know you are engaged in some other events. Are you with us, and are you able to share anything, Sister Ida?
I think she's at a funeral, so she can't. It may have she's maybe just here listening, but I don't think she can contribute. But she's in a funeral reception, she said.
Then, with that, I'll be short so that we can wind up with that paragraph. Sister Amira?
Can I just quickly give my reactions to what Brother Christian and Sister Shireen have just said?
You're permitted. Can you go ahead?
All right. Thanks. So Brother Christian, you said at the beginning of your contribution that why is Christianity being attacked within the Pan-African movement? And then you gave the example of slavery and how could one Christian sell another fellow Christian. I would even bring it closer to our lived experience today, where the society is seeing what I'm just going to call them crazy things happening in these so-called churches, where you see stories of pastors giving corporal punishment to adults because I don't know what that has to do with faith. You hear all sorts of stories like the one Brother Pigbin gave, where that lady had a whole career and then she carried all her money and gave it away and then went and died somewhere in the forest. And then we see these pastors with their big mansions and their big cars, and then we look at the congregation and honestly, you look at them and you wonder, my goodness, they can't pay school fees, they can't pay the bills, they're thrown out because they couldn't pay the rent, and yet all the money is buying the next big car for the pastor. So I think it's just stuff like that that's making people, that's why Africans think that perhaps it is a religion that's making us poor. But then you've very nicely refuted that, and you've really given me food for thought when you said it's not religion, it's just the control of the land and the property and our resources, because we don't have enough shares in our own riches, in our own resources. They're making other external parties and also the corrupt politicians rich. For example, in his book, in Nkrumah's book, Neocolonialism, the last stage of imperialism, he gives a very poignant example where he said Australia is also an export economy and they export raw materials, just like us African countries who export raw materials. But why are they richer than we are? Because on the world market, they get better deals, but we are under very unfair exchanges that are imposed on us by these Western powers. So even though we have all this rich wealth that is plundered, we the owners of it do not get a fair share of it, and we remain poor. And then also Sister Shireen said something that was very, very correct when she said in the New Testament, there's this turn the other cheek and forgive. And what I've witnessed in my own country is someone commits a very, very heinous crime, a very horrible crime. And what do they say? Well, the police called me, right? The police called me and they said, forgive them. And you're thinking, forgive what? We should have a justice system. We should have laws that deal with crime. Why are you asking this person to forgive something that has been done to them that's so terrible? Because they have to forgive. And Yeah, so those are, I mean, yes, those are just my points that came to me, that religion and the exploitation, they sort of kind of work together. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Oh, thank you. Is there any interjection in regards to that, or we can have that very short paragraph for, of course, to help us also wrap up this, because we are having 15 minutes to the end of our time. Brother Kwame?
So what's the question?
No, I'm asking, is there
to move down? Sorry.
Yes, a bit. Yes, that small paragraph that says answers. That's what you want to read and end our class with that as we share our thinking in that.
All right. You want me to read it?
So, yeah, if you can.
I'll read it then. Answers to the question, what there is, can be said to be idealist or materialist. Inasmuch, however, as an empiricist philosophy can be idealist, even though a materialist philosophy cannot be rationalist, the opposition between idealism and materialism cannot be made identical with the opposition between rationalism and empiricism. Can I say, Comrade Paging, we can't conclude that paragraph because we can't, because the next paragraph expounds what that means. And so
I wanted to say that.
Yeah, go on.
I wanted to say the same because I realized it's totally out of a different topic that take us back somewhere. And I think this paragraph will be meant for the next class as we start it from here to connect to the following paragraph. But above all, I think we are coming more of to the end of this conversation of religion, Christianity, and secular state, and maybe oppression or whatever exploitation. And basically, I will request that within the next 13 minutes that's available, let anybody with any contribution in regards to the same religion, because I think it will be marking the end of this religion to this philosophy, we can share something.
Yeah, but can we remind ourselves that all that you have mentioned are within the fundamental question that we started with, which is the nature of our universe and the origin of the cosmic raw material, and the fact that one can conceive of the universe, yeah, which has no outside. One can conceive of it in terms of different ways, one of which is the inside-outside thesis. And that thesis was brought us to the question of religion and how the inside-outside thesis is used by the churches, if you like, or is used in religion. But let's also remind ourselves that that use of the inside-outside thesis was not something that was pervasive in Africa, because the African made the world continuous. The African does not separate the inside and the outside, or separate the spiritual and the material. If there's an accident, the African would not say, "Oh, the car hit the person and the person died, and that's the end." The African would go on and say, "It must be something behind it. Maybe, they might say, oh, there's something spiritual behind that accident." So what it's saying is that the African always combines the two. And by doing that, the African makes the world continuous. What that means is that it comes back to the question we raised earlier. The problem is not the African. And let me be blunt here and say the traditional African mentality. That is not the problem. The problem is that it has been suppressed by the other perspectives. So that the African personality, as Nkrumah called it, is not being allowed to thrive. It is being suppressed by the Christian personalities or the Islamic personalities and so on, or the foreign personalities are sitting on the traditional African, so he cannot really live the way he wants, and describes all his beliefs as backward, as rudimentary, and so on, and even when the people are backward, as Sister Shireen reminded us, people are backward and so on, and so on. It's because of poverty, and it's because of the leadership. See, so I'm trying to say, let's remind ourselves that all that we are dealing with at the moment are to do with the cosmos, the universe in which we live. That is the beginning of our philosophy and our ideology. It is not necessarily about how societies live or how human beings relate to one another. Those are in the world, but we are not talking about that. That only comes in to illustrate the fact that we live in a cosmos, a universe, and since it's a universe, there's no other. There can only be one universe. Therefore there cannot be an outside, and therefore the laws of nature, the laws of whatever you want to call it, those things are all inside our universe. Cause and effect are all inside our universe. I just thought I'll remind us about where we are coming from. So let's keep our mind on that and not get sucked into these examples, as it were. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Kwame. I'd like also to point to something that he says that fear created the God.
Sorry. Can I just, Brother Pigbin, I just want to add also that the internet, social media, and being able to share resource is also causing an educational revolution. Where before we had to delve into the annals of books that were hidden in the British libraries or in certain places and spaces globally where only inverted commas white intellects would have resource to, the universities such as Cambridge, Oxford, those high level universities in America, Harvard, etc. That was where knowledge was kept under a lock and key and only given access to people who could afford to pay for it or who through bloodline had access to it. Whereas now, because of the internet and because of technology and because of telephones and global data, etc., and our ability to share, that's where the revolution is coming. That's where this revolution is coming, because people can just tap a few words into a search and it will bring up a whole host of atrocities that if the people of Africa are reading about the atrocities that have happened on their exact land where they are, the chickens have come home to roost, as Malcolm X would say and would have. But there's also been a global, I think it was in 2020, there was also, or before then, there was also an agreement globally from the elites and a lot of the secret societies that there should be a turn of the tide, where this whole facade that has been upheld in terms of not kingdoms, but what do you call them? What do they call it? Oh God, what do you call it? The British had it, then the Americans, in terms of being world leaders and stuff like that, that there has to be empires, the empires as well. There has been that as well, which is why you have all of these silly Caucasians coming out of the woodworks trying to give 1 million here, 100,000 here, just peanuts, where at the end of the day, they don't want to give up their wealth. They don't want us to treat them the way that they have treated us. They will never, ever like to be at the hands of the perpetrators, or the perpetrators who've treated a certain set of people a certain way. They would not like what they always say: do unto others that you would be done by. And if that was to truthfully happen, believe me, they would rather kill themselves. They'd rather kill themselves than allow that to happen. But my main point is the technology and social media and education being free education being available to many people around the globe, the global majority, being able to self-teach. And for me, some do need guidance. They do. I think that that the whole of our race needs to be re-educated so that they have a realization of self and who they are. We just need, just like the Great Walk of China, where the weakest didn't survive, the weakest died. We need to have that also, and there needs to be a strong educational focus so that we can supersede, or even the generations below us can supersede anything that's ever been done before. And I'll leave it there. Sorry.
But can I, Sister Shireen, can I draw your attention, however, to the limitations of technology, very briefly? And how can I, as a man, ever know what it is it's like to give birth? How can I?
By being beside your pregnant wife in the
hospital. But even if I am beside my wife in the hospital, will I ever know what it is like to give birth?
No.
I can see it, but can I feel it? I can't.
No.
And you and I, and Sister Mara, as I understand, also lives in the UK.
Yeah.
We have a certain understanding that our brothers and sisters on the continent don't have.
Okay.
And it's hard, it will be hard for them to understand. Because how can you understand toothache if you have never had toothache?
Right.
You know, you can be empathetic to someone having toothache, and you can help them however you can. But if you have never had toothache yourself, how would you ever understand? Is it Ngozi Chimamanda, the Igbo playwright that succeeded Chinua Achebe, was saying that when she went to America, she never knew she was a black woman. I say the same thing. I've said the same thing many times. That yes, I'm a black man, but I didn't know I was a black man until I came to England. How will Pidgin ever understand that? Or how will anyone living in the country ever understand what that means? That you're a black man, but you don't really understand that you're a black man. You think you understand, but you don't really understand. And so when I'm making this comment in light of technology, that reading about something that is happening, reading about it, it's not the same thing as feeling it. It's not the same thing as living in it. And so I'm just saying that I agree with all you said, but there is a limit to technology, that it may not be able to pass on feelings. But then you could argue that, what about videos? They can they? Yes, videos can portray feelings. They can evoke feelings. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. So yes, they can. But there is a limitation to the technology. I'll just end by saying that you are right in the sense that a lot of these stories are coming out. When I came to England, a lot of our Christian brothers and sisters on the continent, for instance, there are things they don't understand. So, for instance, do they know, for instance, that in the Christian church there was a church for the black people and a church for the white people? On Sunday, the white Christians go to a different church. The black Christians go to a different church. The minister for the black people is different from the minister for the white people. How will they understand that? You know, I mean, when I came to this country and I watched that on television, I was shocked because I never knew it existed. The idea that some group of Christians will go to church and deny entrance to another group of Christians on the basis of skin color was shocking. But then, you know, it happened in England here when our African Caribbean brothers and sisters, including our own African brothers and sisters, when they came to this country, what did they do as Christians? They flocked to the churches. The Anglican churches, didn't they? Then what did the priest start telling them? The Anglican priests. Oh, they started telling them not to come. Why? Because the white members began to feel uncomfortable when the black people came into the churches. and so that forced African Caribbeans to start setting up their own churches. And this is why African Caribbeans started setting up their own churches, because of what they were being told in the predominantly white churches at the time. And so then the priests would then come and say to you, are you sure you want to be here? There is a black church across the road. Don't you think you should be there? And that's because the white Christians were not comfortable with black people being in the same church with them. So the point I'm making is how can you understand that? How can you feel that? Can you understand it? Can you understand it? And if you understand it, can you feel it? It's like me saying, can you feel and understand what it means to get pregnant and carry a child in your womb for 9 months and deliver? As a man, can I ever understand that? I don't think so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We are actually 1 minute past our time, and I'll end it with one of the, of course, sentence in this paragraph today, which says, "Fears created the gods, and the fears preserved them." It is fears that created the gods, and fears preserved them. I think that aspect of fear, we need to come back to it and maybe discuss it further as we move to the next class, to see how actually many people have that fear and how can we overcome our fear. I remember Brother Kwame, you said one day that we don't fear anyone. This is our class, we speak free. We don't have to fear anyone. We don't have to feel insecure to anyone. So actually, I want to thank you all for attending today. And let's meet again next this Saturday and next Thursday. And Sister Marian, welcome to our class. And Sister Sherin is here and Sister Ida here. So we have good sisters around and they will walk through. Don't worry, sister. How did you find our class, Sister Maria, before we end? 1 minute.
No, it was fine because I've watched all the YouTube videos just to catch up, and I've been reading the book along with the YouTube videos. So it wasn't very, I've read a lot about this topic, so it wasn't very alien really. So it was really good. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So that